Kendrick Lamar is almost perfect in the eyes of the public. Still in a relationship with his high school sweetheart, zero legal issues, no women coming up with allegations against him from years ago, nor any interactions with fans or people in the industry that speak ill of him. But what if this was all by design? Law 26 reads, "Keep your hands clean. You must seem a paragon of civility and efficiency. Your hands are never soiled by mistakes and nasty deeds. Maintain such a spotless appearance by using others as scapegoats and cat's paws to disguise your involvement." Kendrick Lamar's existence mirrors the use of the cat's paw perfectly. Make use of the cat's paw. In the fable, the monkey grabs the paw of his friend, the cat, and uses it to fish chestnuts out of the fire, thus getting the nuts he craves without hurting himself. If there is something unpleasant or unpopular that needs to be done, it is far too risky for you to do the work yourself. You need a cat's paw. Someone who does the dirty, dangerous work for you. The cat's paw grabs what you need, hurts whom you need to hurt, and keeps people from noticing that you're the one responsible. Let someone else be the executioner, or the bearer of bad news, while you bring only joy and glad tidings. But unfortunately, sometimes for Kendrick Lamar, the cat's paw would cause harm as well as benefit to his career and image. Let's take a look at something that was slightly harmful, but some would say it worked out in his favor. In Kendrick Lamar's massive look on the cover of GQ in 2013 as Rapper of the Year, they did a piece on him which I'm going to read you a couple of excerpts. The album, about a day in the life of nerdy Compton teenager K-Dot and his homies as they run around in his mom's minivan chasing, quote, "that crazy-ass girl Shireen," is practically a Black Ulysses, a portrait of the rapper as a young man, simultaneously a drive-by deconstruction of gangsta rap's violent tropes and a celebration of its signature slow-rolling sound. On Good Kid, Lamar is our embedded correspondent, spitting triple-time confessionals from a part of the country most of us had forgotten once the rap scene found a fresher inner city to fetishize. The music nods at influences far beyond the West Coast, beach house samples, dungeon family lushness, but throughout, his voice stays singularly focused on a 20-block radius around Central Avenue and Piru Street. Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, basically TDE's Suge Knight, asked if I had had a fun day. I said that I had and that I was surprised by their discipline. "You guys seem so calm," I said. "Well," Tiffith told me, "we're going to have to call it a night with you because we about to get uncalm. You understand?" Now, none of these seems disrespectful, really. The rest of the piece showers Kendrick Lamar with praise, perhaps calling him nerdy may cause slight offense, although I doubt it, and comparing his writing to that of a well-renowned novel is nothing to scoff at. But for some reason, the cat's paw decided to unsheath its claws for this one. Top Dog reacted rather aggressively, probably unhappy with the comments made about him, with the following. This week, Kendrick Lamar was named one of GQ's 2013 Men of the Year, an honor that should have been celebrated as a milestone in his career and for the company. Instead, the story written by Redacted put myself and my company in a negative light. To say he was surprised at our discipline is completely disrespectful. Instead of putting emphasis on the good that TDE has done for West Coast music and for hip-hop as a whole, he spoke on what most people would consider what's wrong with hip-hop music. Furthermore, Kendrick deserved to be accurately documented. The racial overtones immediately reminded everyone of a time in hip-hop that was destroyed by violence, resulting in the loss of two of our biggest stars. We would expect more from a publication with the stature and reputation that GQ has. As a result of this misrepresentation, I pulled Kendrick from his performance at GQ's annual Man of the Year party, Tuesday, November 12th. These lazy comparisons and offensive suggestions are something we won't tolerate. Our reputation, work ethic, and product is something that we guard with our lives. This was rather peculiar because there don't seem to be any racial overtones other than perhaps gangsta rap's violent tropes, which is just complete fact. It was a violent time and the music reflected that. The surprise that they're disciplined is definitely a compliment. This writer probably had the experience of interviewing many other artists, and in a rare moment he saw neither Kendrick Lamar nor anyone on his team rolling or smoking weed, since Kendrick Lamar didn't smoke or drink. This was something he probably saw as discipline for the average person, let alone an artist and their team that has had plenty of vices offered to them on a regular basis. The negative from this was that Kendrick Lamar now lost the opportunity to perform at a very big event, and fans also agreed. That article on Kendrick and GQ was dope AF. I think Top Dog is just in a sensitive position right now being a CEO in a white man's industry. Kendrick Lamar and Top Dog being super sensitive over the GQ interview. I thought they called him the N-word. Shaking my head. Come on, K-Dot. Now, there were a couple of fans that said they agreed, but the majority felt that this was more about Top Dog than Kendrick Lamar. GQ's editor-in-chief actually stood up to them in a surprising moment by a company with the following. Kendrick Lamar is one of the most talented new musicians to arrive on the scene in years. That's the reason we chose to celebrate him, wrote an incredibly positive article declaring him the next king of rap, and gave him our highest honor, putting him on the cover of our Man of the Year issue. I'm not sure how you can spin that into a bad thing, and I encourage anyone interested to read the story and see for themselves. We were mystified and sorely disappointed by Top Dawg's decision to pull him at the last minute from the performance he had promised to give. The real shame is that people were deprived of the joy of seeing Kendrick perform live. I'm still a huge fan. What's interesting is when trying to get the quote from Top Dawg, it was deleted from the majority of blogs and news outlets that posted it at the time. I would find the page, but it would link to an error 404 or something of the like. So it seemed like they may have been trying their best to scrub that since it wasn't such a great moment, but regardless, even in a misstep, none of this fell on Kendrick Lamar because it was the CEO that would bear the brunt of the backlash if negative, which it was. In 2015, Kendrick Lamar would get a blast from the past when someone released a song with the feature he had done years ago for this song Heaven Help Them. I did a whole video on this which you should check out, so I'll keep it short, but Kendrick Lamar's team took this down immediately, despite the individual having paid for the feature, and stopped all contact with him. The guy sued, one because nobody showed up, but it was Top Dawg that started corresponding with him, which he said he was threatening him to try and keep the song off platforms even after he won the judgment. And after Jonathan Emile wrote a public letter that would be reposted on several different blogs, would they leave him alone? We don't know if Kendrick Lamar directly had any involvement, and the comments on my video are a perfect example of this law in action though. Everyone supposes Kendrick's innocence and lack of involvement in that entire situation because he's played his cat's paw so well throughout his career. Another very clever move this time by Kendrick Lamar was when he decided to use his cat's paw on Top Dawg to take on major streaming platforms. In June of 2017, Kendrick Lamar would tweet out support for XXXTentacion, a rising but very controversial star who was pretty much blackballed by the industry and media. Listen to this album if you feel anything. Raw thoughts. Fifth listen. Nearly a year later, Spotify would announce something called their new hate content and hateful conduct public policy, which said the following. We are removing R. Kelly's music from all Spotify-owned and operated playlists and algorithmic recommendations such as Discover Weekly. His music will still be available on the service, but Spotify will not actively promote it. We don't censor content because of an artist's or creator's behavior, but we want our editorial decisions, what we choose to program, to reflect our values. The Times reported that a Spotify representative confirmed that XXXTentacion's music was also being removed from the playlist. His song Sad is no longer on the popular Rap Caviar playlist. Billboard reports that it was there as of yesterday, May 9th. Jonathan Prince, Spotify's VP head of content and marketplace policy, told Billboard, "When we look at promotion, we look at issues around hateful conduct, where you have an artist or another creator who has done something off-platform that is so particularly out of line with our values, egregious, in a way that it becomes something that we don't want to associate ourselves with," he added. So we've decided that in some circumstances, we may choose to not work with that artist or their content in the same way, to not program it, to not playlist it, to not do artist marketing campaigns with that artist. The majority of streams come from algorithmic or editorial playlists. It would effectively be blacklisting an artist if their music was removed from there, especially an artist like XXXTentacion, who had yet to reach the peak of his career like R. Kelly already had. Interestingly enough, only a month later, Spotify would fall back, doing a complete 180. We don't aim to play judge and jury. We aim to connect artists and fans, and Spotify playlists are a big part of how we do that. Our playlist editors are deeply rooted in their respective cultures, and their decisions focus on what music will positively resonate with their listeners. That can vary greatly from culture to culture and playlist to playlist. Across all genres, our role is not to regulate artists. Therefore, we are moving away from implementing a policy around artist conduct. Why would this happen? Well, Kendrick Lamar put in a call for his cat's paw Top Dawg to reach out and speak to them. I reached out to Troy Carter, Spotify's global head of creator services over there. We had a conversation and I expressed how I felt about it, about censorship, how you can't do artists that way. I don't think it's right for artists to be censored, especially in our culture. How did they just pick those artists out? How come they didn't pick out any others from any other genres or any other different cultures? There are so many other artists that have different things going on, and they could have picked anybody. But it seems to me that they're constantly picking on hip-hop culture. My whole thing with them was, we gotta fix this situation. And if it can't be fixed, then there's gonna be a real problem. We're gonna have to start pulling our music from the site. I was willing to get the whole culture to back out. There were other people in the business, other powerful artists that were willing to back what I was saying, because nobody agrees with censorship like that. Censorship affects not only us, but it affects generations to follow. This is for the future. If they censor us now, ain't no telling what's going to happen in the future. It's a slippery slope if you start censoring music. You gotta let artists be artists and speak freely. That was the main thing. This was brilliant because Kendrick Lamar has to deal with and needs to remain favored by these streaming platforms, the public, and XXXTentacion was not well liked. He already faced some slight negativity from posting that he enjoyed his album, and him going to bat for him like this and saying it publicly could alienate some of his fans. But if TDE is doing it, well, that's their business. And they're not threatening to just remove Kendrick Lamar, but their entire record label roster. And Kendrick Lamar will get the positive credit, but the negativity would fall on Top Dog if there was any negativity, which there really wasn't. It was only people with zero foresight and hate that supported what Spotify was doing. Interestingly enough, that same year Kendrick would take on the role of mastermind and use the cat's paw at TDE to do that. Hakeem Carter, aka Baby Keem, was a no-name and faceless producer who would find himself with credits on the Black Panther soundtrack that TDE was commissioned to put together, as well as J-Rock's Redemption album. How did that happen? A writer would ask, how did you originally get involved with TDE and what led to you working on the Black Panther soundtrack? I sent a pack of beats to the TDE email, and it just so happened that I ended up on the soundtrack. God's blessing. Have you worked with any of them since? I ended up working on J-Rock's album Redemption. I produced the songs Knock It Off and Rotation. I would later break the story that this was Kendrick Lamar's first cousin. You can check that video out if you want. But it was brilliant because Kendrick Lamar knew he couldn't just say, here, this is my cousin, check out his music. In hip-hop, it wouldn't be accepted, and he would be seen as given a handout and scrutinized a lot more harshly. Whereas if he got some production on the movie album, then J-Rock, then his own music slowly growing, by the time he had his own core fan base, Kendrick Lamar would swoop in and take him to the next level, which is exactly what happened. Baby Keem had Orange Soda go up, quote, on his own, and then Honest, which led to the crescendo of Family Ties where it would be revealed that they were cousins. Baby Keem didn't have any features for his first two projects either, and we would get photos later revealed that they were working on Damn sessions together, so it was evident that they were working since 2017 at the least. The reversal reads, the cat's paw and the scapegoat must be used with extreme caution and delicacy. They are like screens that hide your own involvement in dirty work from the public. If at any moment the screen is lifted, and you're seen as the manipulator, the puppet master, the whole dynamic aims around, your hand will be seen everywhere, and you'll be blamed for misfortunes you may have had nothing to do with. Once the truth is revealed, events will snowball beyond your control. Scapegoats is understandable, but the brilliance of a cat's paw in this case of Top Dog and Kendrick Lamar, who grew up in a similar environment, he had experience working with an artist before, he saw Kendrick Lamar grow up, is that the cat's paw can be so in tune with the beliefs and decisions that an individual like Kendrick Lamar would make that he doesn't even need to consult with him before taking action, thereby removing any potential of his involvement in the, quote, dirty work, because there is clear alignment. Now, this can misfire at times, like I believe it did at the GQ Awards. That was also a time when Kendrick Lamar had just broken out and wasn't established yet like he would come to be when he was a couple of years out of leaving Top Dog.